This call is being recorded.
Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we continue our retrospective on Frankenstein in film with the 1939 film Son of Frankenstein. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it, so warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of the Alex Van Helsing series from HarperCollins. With me from Austin is Mr. Tony Salvaggio from an undisclosed location. He is tech director at Rooster Teeth Studio, lead singer of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Jason, was your life threatened in some way, and Tony had to be moved to an undisclosed location just in case he needed
Well,
to step in for you?
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I can't talk about that.
It's totally true. He actually genuinely can't.
He could tell you, but he would have to kill you.
Yes.
Yep.
Also, as you're going to hear in Austin, is Drew Edwards, editor-in-chief of HorrorMovies.net, writer for Rockabilly Online, and creator and writer of the long-running comic Halloween Man. Say hello, Drew.
Why is it that Tony is a mister and I don't rate that?
You got like
know.
There were like 8 or 9 months
You're Mr.
where you were a mister, and so
I like that. It made me feel good about myself. Now my self-esteem is lower.
I'll trade you.
I'm
much
needy.
less formal.
Yeah, I'm needy that way though. Like
Okay.
I am.
From here on out, you will be Mr. or Master, and we'll just go with that.
I like that last one the best.
Masturbation.
Master Drew Edwards. So welcome. And finally, Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman. Say hello.
I'm happy not to be Ms. or Mrs. Although somebody called me Miss at a restaurant the other day, and I was like, "Thank you for that. That's
Miss?
so nice."
That's delightful. Counselor. We should call you counselor.
There you go, counselor. Yeah, somebody called me doctor one day. I was like, "That's my dad. Dr. Guzman is my dad."
It's so funny. I actually knew a history professor who all he had was a JD, and he literally called himself doctor when he was a professor. And I'm really curious as to whether it is common for JDs who are teaching at a university to allow themselves to be called doctor. I don't know.
What if he was a
Latin-
witch doctor?
Yeah.
In Latin America, they call attorneys doctor, so I actually have some clients that call me doctor.
There you
That's
go.
hilarious. Wonderful. That's really. I'm going to start calling you. Well, it wouldn't be el doctor. It would be
Licenciada.
La doctor? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. According to Wikipedia, Son of Frankenstein is a 1939 horror monster film, the third in the Universal Frankenstein series, and the last to feature Boris Karloff as the monster. It's also the first to feature Bela Lugosi as Igor. This is the first appearance of Igor, the one and only. The picture is a sequel to James Whale's Bride of Frankenstein. It's directed by Rowland Lee, and it stars Sherlock Holmes himself, Basil Rathbone, Boris Karloff, and Bela Lugosi, which is a heck of a cast. The film was a reaction. I mean, in other words, it came out just because all of a sudden Dracula and Frankenstein had become quite popular again because they had been re-released in 1938. And it was, one of the more dramatic movements of Universal was to go ahead and cast both Karloff and Lugosi, who were, of course, big stars, because this is 1939, and Frankenstein and Dracula were both 1931.
Apparently, Lugosi
So-
was in desperate need of work.
Well, it's possible.
Well, actually, there had been a few years where they were a little dry on horror films in Universal. So Karloff and Lugosi were both very happy that this film went into production initially because there had been a ban on horror films in England. And when the re-releases that you were talking about came out in America and made a lot of money, they were like, well, screw it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make this movie, and it'll probably make enough money so they weren't making it here in the States. But by then, by the time it came out, the ban was lifted, and we entered in what most people considered to be the second wave of Universal monster pictures. Although debatably, because this one came out in the 30s, even though it's the late 30s, you could argue that this is still part of the first wave. And since it is I rather laugh it. Well, I'll save this. I'm going too far into it.
The question I want to ask is, and we'll get to it at the after our opening thoughts. What I'm curious about it, as far as that wave thing that you were just talking about, is I've heard people refer to Frankenstein, Bride, and Son as being the A pictures, meaning expensive, looking beautiful, major releases, and then Ghost and House being B pictures. Is that the case? I mean, in fact, if you look at Ghost, does it appear significantly cheaper than Sun? I don't know. So and we may not get to it on this show because I think we're going to time warp straight into the late 50s after this show. But let's get our opening thoughts. Julia, you've never opened us, at least not in many months. Certainly this will be your first time with this particular retrospective. So if you are ready for it, why don't you give us your opening thoughts on Son of Frankenstein, and then we'll go Drew, and then Tony in his undisclosed location, and then I'll go. Julia, lay it on us.
It's entertaining. It's a great cast. I mean, I really, I knew that Bela Lugosi was in it, and then I kind of immediately forgot. And then Jason at one point said something about Bela Lugosi, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's him. And it's only when you really look at his eyes that, for me anyway, that I recognize him. But otherwise, I think he's kind of just disappears into this role of Igor, the hunchback. He's really, just something else. And then just all of them, I think, Basil Rathbone is really good, and it's just, I don't know, it's a really interesting collection of folks, including, of course, Boris Karloff, who goes back to being mute in this one, I guess, because of the coma or whatever. He's removed his bridge again. He's not speaking anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting film. I like the kid. He's super cute. That little kid plays the voice of Bambi, the young Bambi.
Oh, right.
He's adorable. And it's just, I thought there was a lot of great things. I love the set. I want to visit that set if it still exists. It's so neat. So I really enjoyed it.
Very good. Drew, you're the one who brought us to the Frankenstein series. So why would anybody watch Son of Frankenstein? What are we looking for here?
Well, I think this is actually a great film. I think it maybe is a minor step down from the James Whale Frankenstein films, but it's got a lot going for it. As you mentioned, it's got a really possibly the best cast of any Golden Age horror film. I mean, you didn't mention Lionel Atwill, who plays Inspector Craig here, but I mean, of course,
he's so good.
Great. Yeah, he's great. And of course, this character got heavily parodied. In fact, whole scenes of this movie got heavily parodied in Young Frankenstein. This is a beautiful movie with this is a beautiful movie with great, almost silent film-esque set. So it looks very different from the James Whale Frankenstein movies. And I think this is debatably Lugosi's best role in a horror film. I mean, he's amazing as Dracula, and I actually just watched the Lugosi Dracula in preparation for talking about this, his role in Igor in this. And he's very magnetic as Dracula, but as Julia says, he basically disappears into this role of Igor. He's phenomenal in this film, and he's just astounding to watch. When I was younger, I don't know that I appreciated this movie, but like over the years, this has come to be one of the movies that I like to revisit the most. Like I watch this maybe once every 2 months, if not more. So I just adore this film, and I'm happy that we finally got to doing these 3 films. I think this is the weakest performance of Karloff, and I kind of understand why he gets a few good scenes in here, but he is kind of starting to become the lumbering stereotype of what we think the Frankenstein monster being in this movie, and I guess that's something we can get into. Karloff still has a few really great scenes, and it is a nice little swan song, but it is hard to ignore that he is a little bit different than he is in the other 2 films.
Excellent. Tony, what do you got?
I really like the film. I thought it was interesting watching it from not having seen it in a while and thinking about where it takes place in this whole movement, and also where it's coming off of, hey, we should make this because it's popular. So we like to think of the kind of crass commercialism of when a remake happens, like, oh, Spider-Man just came out and now they're rebooting it, blah blah blah. But when you watch this, you'll see, like, oh, now the town's named Frankenstein. They have all of the catchphrases, and it gets, especially in the beginning, they're like going for broke for, like, no, you are watching this Frankenstein film. It's been a few years. We're bringing it back. You want to hear it's alive? Here we go. We're gonna say that a lot. We're gonna, all these things. The kind of recap nature of it, where it is a reboot, where it's like, oh, it's this many years later. We're bringing his family, and they really talk about, like, oh, remember that monster and all of this stuff that kind of reintroduces it.
So you're
not
sort of saying
bad.
it's the first rebootful.
Yeah, and that's not that any of this is bad. It's just we tend to think of these things as kind of, in the past maybe they were a little bit more elevated, but they're doing a lot of the things we maybe dislike or like roll our eyes in when we see it in newer modern movies. I mean, I think a lot of them are more ham-fisted than this, but there's a lot of stuff where they're really bringing it back around, and I found that kind of fascinating to think about and how movies were approached. But in general, like, I mean, the cast, I mean, you guys said it best. Like, the cast is just fantastic. Igor is, there's just so much cool character stuff. The sets are beautiful. Even when they're coming in on the train, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
The inspector is great. I love the, like, hall of elders who are, all the town council people. We got to rally. And the way everybody's treated by the villagers. It's just got so much really cool stuff going on. The lab is more, is more modern and has all kinds of electrical things. All of this is, I don't know if it was bigger budget, but, like, it has this feel, and everything just kind of comes together. I think it starts off for me a little bit rockier, and then really hits its stride, and it's great stuff. I think basically when Lugosi shows up, then you're like, okay, this is really awesome.
Thank you very much. The only thing I would add to that is I think this is a beautiful film. I mean, I agree completely that it's the whole world has been tweaked slightly since the last film. In many ways, I enjoy all the business of this movie even more than the business of Bride of Frankenstein. I think the monster himself is the only, it's not really a negative. It's just that the monster honestly has a lot less interesting stuff to do in this one than in the last one. But having said that, I love what it looks like. I love the fact that we've jumped forward. And in fact, let's go straight into it. This movie picks up, because this is really what I'm most fascinated by in this movie, is it now appears to be the 1930s. I mean, in the weird, odd world of Universal horror, we are now in a place that is very like the 1930s. It's just in the strange Universal world that's kind of Germany and kind of England, and has, local nobility plus the middle class management of the town in the form of the burgomaster. And like Tony said, the town is now called Frankenstein. And Basil Rathbone has come back, and what a desolate country. Tony, you talked about, like, when they're writing, at the beginning of this, Basil Rathbone and his family, which is to say his wife Josephine Hutchinson and their little boy Peter, which is Donnie Dunnigan, they are riding in the train and they're headed back to.
For some reason, there's a broken sprinkler head right on top of the train.
Yeah, periodically. Well, I can explain that. I can explain
water
that.
just dumping on.
Yeah. Periodically,
Anyway,
water would just. But actually, if you went under a water tank, occasionally it would in fact dump water on the train in order to.
It just seemed like the rain was a bit excessive. Is all I'm saying.
Anyway, it was beautiful because you're looking out there and they're passing by this gnarled, horrible landscape that just appears to be dead as far as the eye can see.
Mhm.
It's just all of these terrible. And the funny thing is, this
Very
once again
alien.
is, hmm? What's that?
It's very alien.
It is alien, and the thing I was thinking of is it reminded me of what David Scal referred to in his book. I think it was Monster Show, where he talks about the universal world seen in Son of Frankenstein being akin to something that an American GI would remember. And of course, what American GIs remembered about being in France was that everything had been bombed to pieces. So the
Well,
idea
not to
that everything
mention
would
barbed wire.
Right, right. And so this is it's a strange world. I mean, again, I've bitched so much over the years about how people don't appreciate that Hammer created its own world. But watching these three movies has made me aware that Universal also created a world. But it's now like 30 years later. Colin Clive, Dr. Frankenstein, is dead. His son has grown up.
I want to just say one
Okay,
thing.
lay it on
I
me.
like to imagine that there is a Lost Frankenstein movie somewhere because it really feels like Colin Clive was alive at the end, and apparently went on to father a son.
Yep.
But what we are
Two
to take
sons.
from so what we are to and take from dialogue in this film is that he died at some point. So
Yes.
I feel like there's like a lost adventure. I'm sure there's fan fiction somewhere that takes care of this, but like there's a lost adventure of Dr. Frankenstein and his monster somewhere. And like
Absolutely. Yeah,
and the monster survived.
no, go ahead.
Huh? The
That would
monster
explain a
survived
lot.
the explosion. The monster survived the explosion, but we never know what happens to the bride.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was supposedly a better made creation than the monster himself. So it would seem to it seems to me that she would be around somewhere.
I can't believe so. In other words, this fanfic that you're envisioning also involves the Bride of I love that, now it's a missing chapter and it involves the Bride of Frankenstein, which I think is a brilliant idea. We
And I'm
know,
glad to hear that because I was missing her. I was like, what happened to the bride? They never
yeah,
explained
she
it.
should be pretty resilient. She was made with Pretorius flesh, right? And they're really strange. I mean, they can be in suspended animation and I mean, so, she's a different kind of thing. Well, she was bodies, but her brain was Pretorius. The
Brain
wolf,
by Pretorius.
yeah.
It's like a perfume ad or a couture.
Basil
Brain
Rathbone's
by
character is
Victoria.
called Wolf, and he says he did not actually know his father. So that means that Dr. Frankenstein, in this imaginary chapter that Drew's positing, Dr. Frankenstein had these two children. We don't see one of the brothers. I'm just giving away a secret from the next film, which is that there's yet another brother. But he had these two children and then died. So yeah, I can totally imagine he's got the two children. He's put all that behind him, and now a new adventure. Maybe the Bride of Frankenstein, who's developed the ability to speech and logic, comes to him in the middle of the night, says, "Come on an adventure with me." They go like to the Arctic or something and get into a big crazy thing, and then Frankenstein dies, saving the world. Write that, Drew. Write it. That's that's a wonderful idea. Okay. So now it's 1939, and I say that because we've got a couple things. We got coats and dresses worn by the cast that are way 30s. I mean, that like hunting coat that Wolf wears all the time, especially when he's walking around with his rifle, is the only other thing I can think. It reminds me a lot of the stuff that Lon Chaney Jr. wore in The Wolfman. It's very modern. Um, the I have to say they go into this castle and we meet the rest of the cast. There's a bunch of servants, but mainly we've got uh, Edgar Norton as Benson, and I can't remember the name of the maid, but basically they've got just a couple of servants who are loyal to them, and this castle. My favorite thing about it is that Julia, you said that you love the way this castle looks, and it's so weird. They
Yeah, I mean, it's
the
huge.
scripts
It's cavernous. It's got these big arches. It's got it's very kind of Art Deco-ish at points.
Totally.
And then
yeah.
randomly be these like huge block stone things that come apart to reveal secret passageways, and fascinating.
It looks like something designed by like Erte or something. It's this totally Art Deco. I mean, the Wolf Frankenstein stands up on this staircase. This staircase that is suspended in midair. It is the most modern staircase. It's like a Frank Lloyd Wright staircase.
If I ever have a staircase that has the stairs that aren't finished, like they're just they're just slabs linked together with metal.
They're just suspended, right?
They're not blocked. They have this. I'm going to do it like they did have this like light beneath it, so that it casts this incredible shadow on the wall. It's so cool. It's an awesome pattern.
Yeah, it's a total Frank Lloyd Wright kind of creation. It's really strange, and Wolf Frankenstein gets up on the top of the staircase and goes, "Why, it's medieval." I mean, it's many things, but medieval it ain't. This is the most like literally modern castle I've ever seen, and it's just weird. And in the tweaking that's happened in this universe, or in all the rebuilding and weird stuff that went on in the lost chapter from Drew Edwards' imagination, they've also completely replaced Frankenstein's lab. So while it used to be, what was it? It was like a tower, right? It was like literally
It was an old guard tower.
Yeah, it was a guard tower.
Of course, it got quote unquote blown to atoms.
Right.
In the end of the Bride of Frankenstein, so they would have to do a lot of serious rebuilding.
Yeah.
Well, we also now learned that it's got a sulfur pit in it.
Yes.
No,
it's got a sulfur pit.
I mean, they're in a wreck. There's a wreck. There's wreckage at some point, but when he re-outfits it gets definitely, and the sulfur pit added. Like, hey, by the way, I also built it around the sulfur pit, so if we need that, that's cool. I still, we kind of glossed over it once he gets to the castle, but I love when he gets to the town, and they're like, hey, we're here to meet you, not to greet you. Here's your crap. Get to your castle. And he's like, no, but we can be friends. This is great. I'm back.
Yeah, but no,
I'm back to being
Tony,
Frankenstein. And they're just like, ah. And they start first.
I think he blew the opportunity, because he doesn't say we're here to be friends. He says, my dad was a great person, and they're like, oh, screw you. They all walk away.
when they're all walking away, he's talking about how they could be friends.
I know, but I'm saying he's lost the opportunity to be friends with them when he told them this guy who created this monster that killed a bunch of your people is like an awesome person.
Well, but he honestly believes that. Like he is.
Yeah, he does.
He honestly thinks that his father was and his father was a brilliant man.
Yeah, he didn't say a brilliant man. He said a good man, which is what they were like.
Well, I mean, think about what we're shown of Henry. Although I love here the retcon, it's actually Heinrich Frankenstein. Like what we're shown, he's not. It doesn't actually seem like he's a terrible guy. He just seems like he's a little, he's egotistical. He's got a lot of hubris.
Yeah,
but like,
I gotta say though. The whole playing God thing just is going to be a real turnoff for these people. So I don't think they're ever going to be like,
a lot pause, but he honestly believes I'm just saying he honestly thinks he's saying the right thing.
Yeah.
I know.
I think that's right.
But I'm just saying the only way he could have had a chance with those people is if he'd gone in and said, I'm nothing like my father. I think what he did was wrong. I think playing with God is an aberration, and you should never do that. Playing God. And then he would have been cool, but he didn't. So they were like, yeah, no.
Well, but the only way he would say that is if he was a liar, and he apparently is.
Right.
He's genuinely kind and naive in a way. There's a real sort of, considering this is Basil Rathbone, that this is Sherlock Holmes. He has a brightness and naivete that I think is. It's very moving, but also I think to the people of this town feels very dangerous. And there's probably a metaphor in here about the dangers of do-gooders, because when he's on the train, he says to his wife, "He was right. My father was right." In other words, there's not there's naivete, but he's not innocent. He knows the things his father has and said, my father was right, and everything that went wrong was his stupid assistant's fault, and that's ruined his reputation, and which is projecting sort of what's going to happen in the rest of this movie. And he goes, and here's a weird thing that they throw in. So this is 1939, and already they're going, and would you believe 9 out of 10 people call that monster Frankenstein? Um,
Yeah, no,
so
well, he says it, and then he doesn't say it.
oh yeah, that's a
The
nice bit.
caller for the train. Again,
Yeah.
this goes back to what I was talking about, where they're like, there's some tongue in cheek, and there's also some bits of,
Yeah.
by the way, you're in a monster movie, you're in a Frankenstein movie. That
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go as far as to call it crass, but it's definitely very much on the nose, very much,
Yeah.
hey, these are the things you like. This is the remix that, we're bringing it to the 30s because now it's you guys. It's definitely what we consider, and again, like I said, belabor sometimes, like, no, they've updated. Look how young the cast is in this, and oh, it's now modern. I wish this was the 80s, or whatever, however you want to call out these reboot things. They're doing that here in 39. So it's nothing new. We like to lament that maybe as film goers sometimes, or don't care, wherever you sit on that. But they're still doing that here
That's a
to
wonderful
really bring
point.
it a step forward. But they have all those bits. I do like that, but again, his naivete is part of it. He's probably heard most of this second or third hand. So it's not out of the realm that he would completely. Plus, I think if you have like this rich father and everything like that, if he did hear about it, through different means, you don't want to think your dad was like created a monster that terrorized the town that caused your whole family to be ostracized.
Yeah.
Sure, that's not my dad. He was great. Look, I mean, he brought life. He created, he played God and won. How could he be bad? And so you're going to convince, once he's this old, he's pretty convinced of that. And he's not, even if he's wrong, he's not thinking about it in that same way.
No.
So,
That's a real. I loved everything you said, especially about the concept of that this is the remix kind of thing that we're so used to seeing. You're right. They're like, hey, you guys like the 30s, right? But you like Frankenstein, right? How about Frankenstein in the 30s? And here it is.
Yeah, it's modern. Like we've now, they've given us people a chance, the writers a chance to go, no, this is the present.
Right.
It's got all the stuff you like about now, except we're going to take you to this foreign locale and we're going to give you the monsters that you love.
Yeah.
And we're going to give you the actors that you loved as those monsters. How about that? And
So we're going to hit
the stars to the thing, and it hits all these notes. I mean, I think they do it well. Like I said, a little bit of it's a little bit ham-fisted, but what do you do? Again, we don't live this. The moviegoers of the time didn't live where they could rewatch all of this, right?
Yeah.
So they're
That's
serving
right.
it. It's a totally different game. It's a totally different playing field on all of it. Where, hey, you come to remember that we just revived that. That's why it's popular again. People, man, monster movies. Yeah, let's do more of that. And they're like, oh, by the way, when we bring this to you, here's the cast.
Yeah.
You haven't seen them since this or that, and that's pretty. It's such a different time. Like when you kind of put it in perspective, put it in context, it makes sense, and it's okay that has some of those sensibilities.
I love that. So there's 3 interesting characters we should talk about in a row, and they go like this because this is how they show up, and that's Krog, Igor, Frankenstein. So first, let's talk about Inspector Krog. This guy, which is Lionel Atwill, he is one of the first people to meet him, like a traditional gumshoe detective. He is the local police. Well, he's the inspector, but he's the leader of the local police. He moves through all channels. He knows, he's in with the government, but he's also able to visit with nobility at free will. And he makes it a point to go and visit Dr. Frankenstein in a way to investigate him, but also, I think, just in a good, in a genuinely well, in a generous spirit, to meet Frankenstein and try
Yeah,
to make sure that he's going to be safe.
he's a very complicated character because he's had his arm ripped out by the monster, and yet he is like, you know what? I'm here to protect. He really is here to protect and serve, you know. But
Yeah.
the thing with his arm, the way he uses his arm is so funny. It really is like something straight
So
out
explain,
of Young
what are you
Frankenstein. Like,
talking
it's
about
not,
the arm? Because this is a big deal.
so that's
Big
like
deal.
I said, he got his arm ripped out by the monster, so now he has a fake arm.
Well,
but
as
it's
a
not,
child,
you know.
Yeah.
you know,
What?
like the way he tells it is actually really scary. Like when he recounts the story of him getting his arm torn out.
Yeah.
Right. No, because he just grabbed him. He's a little boy, and then the monster just grabbed him and just didn't know, I guess, his own strength really. And so he pulled his arm out. But he's got now a fake arm that is very mechanical, and so he will use it so comically. It is the comic relief of the film. And he just will because it's very clicky. It's like gears in a clock. You know,
Yeah, it ratchets. It has all kinds of ratchets.
Yeah, ratchets, exactly. Ratchets. So he'll kind of pull up his forearm in order to use it to hold like a light, you know, the light to light a cigarette, or he'll hold things, and then he'll just push it down and just kind of swing it back. And sometimes he even pushes it back behind his back so that he can hold his hands behind his back. And it's very funny. I mean, given how much else that's going on,
It's
so
so
serious.
creative.
It's hilarious.
I mean, so much thought has gone into designing this character. How they didn't just go, "Hey, let's have an inspector." You know, they said, "Let's have him have this arm," and this arm has become a huge bit in this movie. I mean, I just can't get over how much stuff they thought of for him
And it
to
just
do.
now occurred
as
to
an
me
arm.
this very minute that he probably doesn't have a fake arm, and in fact was acting the whole time.
Of course.
I'm sure. He just stuck a black glove. He just stuck a black glove over it and kept his arm stiff.
Yeah.
It
was so good.
But the thing that I love about him is how morally conflicted he is. Like he's a very contemporary character, and that he's very shades of gray, because you can tell he wants to protect Frankenstein's wife and his child. He has kind of a friendly but combative relationship with Wolf von Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you know, towards the end of the movie, he says, like when he starts to suspect that there's something going on, he's like, you know, if you cross me, I'll feed you to the villagers the way the Romans used to feed Christians the lions.
Yes.
So he has this really sinister side to him too.
I think he also admires Frankenstein because he is clearly, think of the hunger of somebody like Crow, who says because of his injury, which Frankenstein bears a debt about. But because of that injury, he wasn't able to be a general. He wasn't able to really to leave, he says. And he's so smart. He's a super smart guy. So Frankenstein coming into town is literally something he hungers for because he doesn't have anybody that smart. I mean, you've seen the other people who hang out in the council house at Frankenstein. I mean, he's like, he can run circles around all of these guys. So I get the impression he's having the time of his life having Dr. Frankenstein come back.
Well, and I think that's the reason why, you know, Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks probably remembered all the scenes of him and Basil Rathbone together to go back and reference and young Frankenstein. Well, but they are great. They're great together. Like there's a magnetism in those two characters together. Those are the very memorable scenes.
Yeah, they are.
It's such a big deal though too, like because his father is directly related to that injury that's prevented him from being all the things he thought he could be.
Yeah.
I mean, but you think about it, he's been lamenting the fact he couldn't be a general for a really long time. I mean, his injury was when he was a child.
Yeah.
So even if he had entered into the military, I mean, he never really had the chance. But you get that he imagined that he had like, if only I didn't have this.
Yeah.
And so he did everything he could with what he had, and he's a super brilliant dude, and so all of this comes about in how he approaches being an inspector.
And there's so much cleverness here, like with the boy Peter. two things here.
I
There's
think
so
it's the
many
least
interesting.
English kid ever. In fact, I
Yes.
think I caught like a Southern drawl a bunch of times.
Oh yeah.
No, he's from Texas. That kid's from Texas. I loved his little Texas accent. It was so cute. He's
I
like,
caught
yeah,
some
exactly.
he gave
lines.
me his watch. He gave me his watch. You want to look at it? Or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it says.
Yeah.
But
I
But
thought
the
when
boy
he
says
really
you're a
comes
general.
out, you're just like, Dad, it's Basil Rathbone. Where were you guys?
Is that right? I think he's adopted.
Yeah. Like they spent
Yeah.
the last 5 years in Texas before their European tour that brought them here. But
So,
I was
so
just
honey,
thinking.
do you still have that friend that the Texas, the Southern milkman guy who used to come by? Are you guys still friends? You guys
What was the
hang
name
out?
of the Texan in Dracula? It's oh gosh,
Oh,
now it's
Quincy
yeah.
Morris.
Quincy Morris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I was just thinking. First of all, there's so much. He gives that story about the general. That's why Crow is still around. It's why also, he needs a friend in Frankenstein. I think that's clearly going on. And then there's so much poignancy in the fact that the little boy Peter calls him a general, and in a way, in the logic of the movie, he
Well,
elevates him to a general.
Frankenstein, he gives him a chance to save face. Like, before they're combative, he tells his son, "Oh, he's a general. He's much better than that. He's an inspector." He really
Yeah.
takes that to heart. And
Yeah.
when his child is asking kind of rude comments and stuff, he turns it back around and actually, in some attempt to do him a favor and return some of his dignity back
Yeah.
that he's perhaps lost throughout the years of, I wish I had that. So this next generation, who knows, the kid could turn out however, but he's given him a chance, like, hey, for this kid, he doesn't know you. He's
Yeah.
going to respect you in the manner that you wish you had been respected. And I think, that starts out, that's really cool. Oh, there's just so much great character bits.
There's so much kindness there, and likewise, everything reflects back on the dead but still very present Baron Frankenstein because, Crow was injured by, in a sense, he is
How
in
are
the
you
sense
pronouncing that?
I say Crow or is it Krog? What is it?
I say Craig. That's how I've always said it.
No,
But
they
I think
definitely pronounce it with an O sound, but whether or
Yeah.
not they're pronouncing the G is I don't really know.
No,
But
I
they're
mean,
definitely
I don't know that it really.
Crow.
I don't know that it matters that much. But
Right.
yeah.
Well,
I'm probably
all
just
I'm
being anal.
When people talk in the 60s about people being the sons of Kennedy, I think that Crow very much is a son of Frankenstein in the way that his life has been tarnished by Frankenstein. This wolf is the son of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein's monster is the son of Frankenstein. You're looking at all these people who have aged 30 years and have had life to age over 30 years in this movie, and they are just bound together. Crow, the monster, and Frankenstein, and I guess Igor. But it's just amazing to me. There will be a point later where the monster just calls it out and drags his brother, in a sense, in front of a mirror. So, okay, so Crow's amazing. So next is Igor, because he, in a way, he's even more amazing, mainly because of the performance of Bela Lugosi. I can't explain. Drew, can you explain? Because you're more of a Universal freak than I am. Why does the American public remember the hunchbacked assistant of Frankenstein as being Igor, and only Igor?
Well, no disrespect to Dwight Fry, who is a hunchback assistant in the first movie.
Yeah.
And puts in a solid performance. This character is just has so much more of a lived-in feel, I think.
Yeah.
And yet no one really remembers Lugosi as creating the role of Igor. Everybody, for some reason, when they're doing Igor, they do a Peter Lorre.
They do Peter Lorre.
Right.
That makes no sense to me at all.
Which sounds nothing like this gravelly voice that Lugosi's doing. This is always the part when there was, like, I don't know, like a good 5-10 years where it became really almost trendy to bash Lugosi in horror fandom. Like, it was sort of like your hipster badge of honor to say, like, oh, well, Lugosi really wasn't that great. He couldn't really act that much. And this is the thing I'm always, like, prepared to hold
Those
up
people
in
can
their
suck
face.
it.
Right.
Yeah. This is
I
an
don't care. Like,
amazing
whoever's doing
performance.
that, I want to meet these people. I will call them the hell out. That's BS. Oh,
This is amazing.
I remember the
like
period that you're talking about, though. I mean, I do. You know, it was the same period where everybody discovered Ed Wood, and Ed Wood, of course, had a very old Lugosi and terrible scripts. You know, so I think it all ties together. I think there was this sort of gravy train of just people thinking of Lugosi as being part of schlocky 1950s grade Z movies, and just kind of let go of that. But you're totally right. It's not like Son of Frankenstein wasn't available to watch. It was right there the whole time.
This is a beautiful creation that Lugosi has made here, and 100 miles away from his very elegant and aloof Count Dracula. And I watched both films during the same day, so I could have that basis of comparison. And they're 100 miles away from each other. It's just
I think I said coincidentally I was just at a party, and I really, really don't mean this to name drop, but Harry Knowles puts on this awesome Halloween party, and this year he was Igor, and he did the voice and everything, and like blacked his hair, and it was this whole thing of like, it was really surreal because he didn't know. I mean, he's like, hey, that's what I'm doing, and then watching the film again, it was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. Like, what a coincidence! It was really funny to be at a party with an Igor.
Somebody actually
and then
took
myself,
Igor.
and that was really cool. Like, but Lugosi just plays into it. His, the literal gallows humor he has, where he's like, I used to be dead. I was dead, now I'm alive. That's why I do what I do. Like, all bets are off.
I'm alive.
He doesn't claim. Yeah, he doesn't claim he's immortal, but he's survived this thing, and now he's just going to do whatever he wants because the world at large thinks he's dead. He takes advantage of that.
Yeah. But the interesting thing here, we were just referring to Fritz. So look, Igor in this film talks about being a body snatcher for Dr. Frankenstein. Now we know there's two lines of thought that tie these two characters together, and I will give my preference, which there is a thought that Fritz got his neck broken in the first movie, was somehow brought back to life and started calling himself Igor, and this is what you get. I don't like that. There's a Universal Monsters novel that came out called Return of the Wolfman, and they put up the theory that had Fritz, Dwight Price character from Bride of Frankenstein, Carl, and Igor, all as a trio of grave-robbing brothers that worked for Dr. Frankenstein. And I can get with that line of thought.
Now I want to take those and put them in some kind of other Vampire Hunter D novel.
Yes.
They're the brothers, but they're the grave-robbing brothers who are also guns, hired guns and stuff like that. I want that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think the reason why everybody sort of ties all those characters together is there is a similarity in that they are all human monsters, and of course, we have Igor, who's a hunchback, and Fritz, who's a hunchback. Although Igor's a hunchback because his neck is broken, not because he was born that way. But
and
he can smack his neck with his hand.
Oh, I was going to say that. He knocks on it and it's clank, clank, clank when it's broken. Like, it's the weirdest neck breaking thing, and it's like this, like, it's calcium, it's like this calcium hardened bone underneath. Oh, it's so gross and so awesome.
It is
grody. Disgusting. That was
Yeah.
terrific. And then, of course, he's killing off everybody who had anything to do with
Yeah,
trying.
so I
and
gotta say,
convicting him.
in fact, let's get to he's such a great character. I don't really like where his plot goes, although I guess it's sort of predictable and fine. I don't know. But
Well,
let's
he
talk
was
about
actually originally supposed to be killed off earlier in the movie, but the director had them continue to rewrite the script while they were on set so they could keep Lugosi around long enough because they knew this character was
gold.
No, yeah, because it's awesome.
So
and I
when
like
And he
that,
wasn't
that
even
he's
like
already,
he wasn't even written in to be like a major character, and then they kept writing day by day. They kept writing more script, more story for
that's
him.
interesting.
So that
Well, I like
Lugosi
that
would have
he's-
work.
Well, especially,
I like that
it's
he's
funny,
already,
Tony talking about how, we get so skeptical of things now and the modern, like if you were to hear about something like that going on in a modern movie, the way people are, you'd immediately become sort of dismissive of the film, the way people do, whereas this is a movie that had that going on and it actually improves the movie. It improves the result.
We would hear there's massive rewrites. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I think this film's gone way off the track.
Yeah, that's
like,
a good
this
point.
has been Lugosi. What are they doing? Having not seen any of it, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen
Lugosi's
any
such
of
a
this
diva.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of this stuff you'd hear about. But what I also like is he originally was using the monster to his own end. And it's only when he's like, man, some bad stuff happens. The monster is in a coma. How can I extract my revenge? Oh, crap. Frankenstein's here. Now, if I can just get him to help me, I can keep on going. And his opportunism and the way he plays, he's very, very cunning. And that's another thing that's just awesome about him.
Yeah, he is more cunning than you expect of him. That's the thing is, Igor's a real person. He's not just going to wait around for you to tell him what to do. In fact, he's running his own con. He's trying to get revenge on the people.
Well, that's the funny thing about how people remember this, this, because this is like the trope namer of the Igor. If you go on the TV troops, they would have the Igor. This is the trope namer. And people think of this character being an inherently submissive character, which is actually carried over from Renfield, from Dracula. Igor ain't having none of that. And actually, one of the things I found redeemable about Van Helsing is that when they did Igor, they actually remembered that, and their Igor was had cunning and guile like this one.
Yeah.
So
and when he even tells him at one point straight out, he's like, "I'm just doing this. Like there's no reason for me to do what you tell me." The way he approaches it is really fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's fabulous.
I'm hanged. Like I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to use the monster. Plus, the monster is my friend. I'm going to kill whoever the hell I can with him.
Right.
So
and
you can
you
get in
Basil
line
Rathbone.
to get hammered by the monster, or you can let me do what I'm going to do. Either way, I'm going to win. He's convinced of that.
Okay, so let's talk about the monster.
Well,
the monster.
The villagers. I just want to say the villagers have kind of taken him out of the equation with their backwards ways because they treat him as if he is dead, even though they all know he's not. We can't hang Igor. We can't hang Igor twice. We already hung him once. So
no double indemnity for Igor. They're like, well, I mean, look at him. He's hung, I guess. We're right.
Yeah.
That's the way the court rules. Even though they know he's up to no good. There's nothing good can come of this.
That's such a great Hollywood idea, of the way that courts work, which is nonsense. But I mean, it's it's a bit. It's just like there's lots of comedy in this one, and that's another bit of just satire in the movie. Is this notion that this guy whose execution was screwed up, therefore has immunity to walk around and do whatever he wants, which is just great.
Well, I get the impression too that it is a little bit of a surprise. Like it's not till he really basically plays his hand and says, well, I'm going to be working with Frankenstein. And they're like, wait, because there is a moment where they're like, he's back? what?
Yeah.
And then they
No, he's been hiding out, but I think that's probably the way it is in real life too. If you botch somebody's execution, I don't think you re-kill them, or do you? I don't know.
In Oklahoma, you go ahead.
You don't know. We certainly don't know.
Just let me point out that in Oklahoma, you do in fact just keep trying to kill them until they die. This is horrible, but this is not currently considered cruel and unusual. If you botch an execution, this is really horrible, but I'm going to finish saying this. If you botch an execution, you just keep working on it until they're dead, basically.
Well, that's probably what they should have done with Igor, considering.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, yeah. So,
well, I mean, they pronounce it like. I mean, I get the impression that they really did just think he was dead.
Yeah.
And again, like that.
And
I mean,
there's
it
been
had
urban
in
legends.
anybody's mind until it got proven. Like you know, he's really, really back. Like we can't just keep sweeping this under the rug.
They had a hunch he was back.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the way that Igor says Frankenstein, by the way, where he goes, Frankenstein. He just drops the middle. Hello, Frankenstein. Okay.
Yeah.
So the monster, I wanted to get to the monster because I love his sweater. I mean, honestly, when I was a kid, I got a Frankenstein action figure, the size of a Star Wars action figure, and I made will match the way the monster was in Son of Frankenstein. I did that, and unfortunately,
you made a what? Because it went out for a second. You made a what?
A little wool sweater for the monster.
But what did you say about the match? That it matched it?
So it matched the one in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
really
which
funny.
you can do with a couple of bath mats now.
Yeah.
The fuzzy kind.
Well, when I was Frankenstein about a decade ago, I for Halloween I did do the woolly coat, so there is something to the look that is very striking.
I think it's really cool. Yeah, and it makes him look gigantic, by the way, because we've already known him to he's still wearing the suit, but now he's got a coat over it. This enormous wool, I call it a sweater, it's a coat, but this enormous coat that I guess Igor got made for him so that he won't get cold down there in the cave. And
he's like, well, I wouldn't want you to catch cold on the way to killing all the people I want you to kill.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
and think about how horrible this is.
Up.
We talked about last time about how the monster is a lot like Lenny of Mice and Men. He's giant and simple and doesn't quite understand a lot of things. So Igor, who is really, when you get down to it, pretty evil, has taken in the monster. And is using him to commit crimes and to commit evil deeds. Now, here's my question.
It's the opposite of what happened when he came across the blind man in the second movie. This is probably the end result of what would have happened if he kept rolling with Pretorius.
Yeah, it is. I think that's right.
He's got somebody that's just going to use him for his ill-gotten means. And,
he needs somebody who will. This monster, to the extent this monster is a real creation in, I was going to say in the United States. It's not in the United States, but is a real creation on the earth. He needs somebody who's going to look at it after him and has his best interests at heart. There is no guardian ad litem for the Frankenstein monster, and so basically he's just at the mercy of whoever is nice to him. Does Igor love the monster? Igor really does seem to have kindness.
I think it's the friendship of.
I don't know. I think he's using him.
Definitely, he's using him.
I think it's one of those like, hey, kind of thick as thieves kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I use him, but I also, he's the only person I hang out with. He's the only person who gets it. He's the only person who's been dead.
Yeah.
As well. So all of those things he talks about that, and so all of those things he has in common, and he sees him, maybe not exactly brotherly, but definitely close, in as much as he can get close to anybody because he's had all this horrible stuff. He may have probably was horrible before, but that's just the way he was.
Yeah.
You can kind of surmise, unless getting hung just really, really changes a man, which I assume it does. But it could have been super nice No, well, he was a grave robber, so I guess not.
But my point is,
he
he
did
pets
hate
him.
traffic and digging up bodies and, probably stealing whatever valuables they had, etc. So, but there's a camaraderie,
Yeah.
but not necessarily a friendship, I think, in the way
I think the
that's where
important thing is the monster loves Igor. You know,
exactly.
like whether or not Igor truly like Igor is a sociopath, so I think he loves the monster about as much as he can love anything, but which is he loves it as much as it benefits him. But the monster truly does love Igor. I mean, when he comes across after Wolf von Frankenstein shoots the Igor and the monster comes up and finds him, like that howl that he lets out, that's one of the best scenes Karloff has in this movie.
Well, and they used that howl because they loved it. They loved that howl so much that they kept using it in other movies. The same
Oh,
howl.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Like it sounds positively inhuman. It's so anguished, and like Karloff unfortunately does not have as much to do as he did in the previous movies, but he does get a few bits in here. Like I love the business that you were talking about earlier when he first comes across Wolf von Frankenstein, and he tugs him over in front of the mirror as if to like compare Basil Rathbone's handsomeness versus his own ugliness, and that's great stuff. I love the scene I just mentioned with Igor, and I love the whole scene when he's captured the Wolf's son,
Peter.
and he's walking over the sulfur pit, and he picks him up, and he just for a brief second stops in front of the sulfur pit, and you think that he's gonna maybe toss the kid in, and then he puts him on the ladder. And I love
but
all
again,
that
a throwback to the kid, the girl.
Yes.
And
it
definitely played.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, unfortunately, if you were to look at a lot of what Karloff does in this movie is just lie around on a slab and get poked and prodded. Like he doesn't get as much character bits as he did in the other movies. So it is kind of easy to see when they continued making sequels, like Karloff kind of opted out of wearing coming back and like, okay, I'm gonna come back and wear this cumbersome makeup and be really uncomfortable and hurt my back and all this stuff, when he wasn't getting the great scenes on a whole. Like, and we've talked so much about Igor, and I guess I will say this, like there isn't a lot of evidence to back up that Karloff and Lugosi actually had any antagonism towards each other, but because of Tim Burton's otherwise excellent Ed Wood film, kind of putting that idea forward, there's a lot of people that think there was. If there was any truth to that, like, I guess this movie would be Lugosi's lasting revenge, because Lugosi does walk with this movie over Karloff. I mean, Lugosi's a lot better in this than Karloff is.
So one thing I love, and I had forgotten about about the monster, is they straight up retcon him into what amounts to a marvel like Frankenstein. He's immortal. He's not only does he struck by lightning, but he happens to be like cosmic rays. He's straight up like Fantastic Four kind of stuff. And he looks at his blood, like everything he starts talking about becomes like, this is a Marvel movie Frankenstein at this point. Like Frankenstein's monster is a straight up superhero, like Marvel Comics could have been up there with the Fantastic Four. All of that stuff is right out of a comic book.
Whenever they said that about the Greys, Jason's like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time believing that." I'm like, "Oh, that's where we're having the hard time believing."
Well, it's just suddenly
it becomes harder to believe.
Suddenly we're in a pop sci-fi world. When you say, I mean, because Dr. Frankenstein in the previous film referred to mysterious forces that he discovered. That's the magic that happens in the Frankenstein process. But this time, Wolf goes, my father discovered some means of accessing cosmic rays, and so
But
now
it's by, he says it's by
There had to be
accident,
some way.
though. So I could,
Yeah,
I can kind of buy that in the, maybe
No, I love it.
Frankenstein, the elder, didn't necessarily know what he was doing, but this, the
Oh, I
son
think
of
it's great.
Frankenstein
It's-
comes in here
they've
and
named-
he's able to determine this.
Yeah, they've named the magic thing that makes you be able to bring somebody back to life.
And this
Yeah,
gives me a
He
chance.
talks about everything that makes him up and all his superpowers. Like he goes
Right.
through
Yeah.
the litany
That's
of his
exactly it.
superpowers as if this was like, the Marvel Encyclopedia, where you list the
I mean,
age and
it is a
everything.
bit like
and
like
look at the Marvel
Jason X.
Universe.
Yeah.
It is a bit like Jason X in that way. I mean, where they have Jason and they're studying, and now they're defining, why his sequelitis as a regeneration factor, a la Wolverine. So I mean, I guess I get what you're
I
saying.
loved all that business.
I'm not
It's
even
just-
bitching about it.
I don't
It
know.
was funny. I'm with Tony. It's like, it's clear when you've moved into this movie that they've decided, listen, we're in a whole nother, we've taken it up a notch. This character is now a comic book kind of character. It has superpowers. It can
Pre-comic,
have-
because this is a good 20 years or more before the Fantastic Four. When
True.
you think about
Sure.
it. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't see it the way you see it. I don't see it like that. I see it like they're just explaining the science now. It's like
Yeah,
whenever
but that's what
anybody
happens.
said,
That's how they
here's
get you.
Here's radio waves. This is how we've been hearing signals. Or it's like, it's not that they suddenly are like, oh, let's create this whole new superpower thing. No, it's just explaining what they already did before.
But Joya, if you want to keep
But it is.
the monster in the realm of poetry, you say dark forces unknown to man and unnameable things. And if you want to bring it into the realm of something like science fiction, you say cosmic rays have somehow caused his heart to regenerate despite bullets being present. There's something tactical about
Okay.
those words that have brought us into...
Well, I'm sort of in between both of y'all, because I can kind of see this as the start of what we've seen in horror films since, is that, once you've gotten into, I'll continue to use Friday the 13th as an example. Like, once you got to the third or fourth Friday the 13th movie, they started to quote unquote cement the myth down, and that's what they're doing here.
Well, but
You
I
actually
do think
good.
if it had been years later, it would have been atomic energy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
It fits the deal. Like, it fits however that comes together, and these are the science
At the
terms.
same time, this movie still has a very mythic feel to it. It does have that fairy tale vibe to it.
Yeah.
No, I just like the fact they've turned him from like a corpse, a reanimated corpse, into like a superhuman.
Yeah.
He is the same as you have mutants or superhuman in any like comic book universe. Frankenstein's monster is now that.
Yeah.
He's
There's
no
a
longer
scene-
the animated. There's not as much mysticism. He's no longer just an animated corpse, a super strong animated corpse. He's a superhuman. And that to me, I'd forgotten about that aspect, and it just was fascinating.
Oh, it gets
was really
better.
cool.
I mean, just wait for the one where they find him in a block of ice. I
yeah.
love this stuff, man. I love this stuff. Okay, but there's a scene here that we don't see, and it breaks my heart because I just kind of feel like this stuff would be cool. They work out along the way with Lionel Atwill just hanging out at the castle. What a great ongoing series this would be. He just hangs out, has this sort of verbal tete-a-tete with the increasingly insane Basil Rathbone. And the little boy keeps saying, a giant comes to visit me in my room. And we know that the monster is y'all, and the monster is coming in to visit the little boy at night. I want to see one of those scenes. That's some
Give them a
weird
watch.
shit.
Yeah. Oh man, and I gotta say the interrogation scenes and the cat and mouse between the inspector and Frankenstein is really great.
Yeah.
'Cause they all kind of know. Like, I know a little bit, and I know I know. We're gonna keep playing this because I can't prove it yet.
Yeah.
And he's playing
And they're
darts.
playing
And then he comes
darts?
back and he's like, "Hey, are you gonna play darts still?" Because he's really letting on like he's turning the screws, and
Yeah.
it's far too progressed to have that conversation they had from earlier, and just the way he keeps on, and oh man, it's such good stuff. Because it's a weird, it's part murder mystery in a lot of ways. Like, you see Igor summoning the monster to do his bidding, to kill for him, and all that stuff. So the monster is this semi unwitting victim slash murderer. It's really great stuff. Like it's such a different take on the monster. Who's just kind of, hey, because of my circumstances, I'm killing people, or for revenge just immediately or whatever. Whereas this, he's lured into being a murderer, a weapon, exactly.
That's the most disappointing thing to me, though, is that I feel like I don't know. I mean, I guess it's where the script goes, but that's the one thing that I'm not crazy about this movie, because it just seems such a waste of the monster, that the only thing he really gets to do until the end is, go commit a couple murders. But hey, that in many ways, this is this movie has my favorite bits, but the monster has better bits in Bride of Frankenstein. So if you watch the three of these together, you have a good movie, basically. Which I guess is what Mel Brooks figured out with, because he's trying.
Well,
yeah.
This is like, if you were to view the ones that have Karloff in it is a trilogy. Like, I like some of the stuff that comes after this, but like I do say I think they are lesser than the original three. So like you could be perfectly happy to just leave off your Universal Frankenstein viewing with the monster falling into a sulfur pit, and that's
right.
That's the end of it. Like, I think if you're just to watch these as a trilogy, you're fine. They work well enough together. There's some continuity problems, but it's whatever. You got some good character bits.
It's funny. I cared before. I don't care about the continuity now. It's at this point, in this movie, somehow the continuity is strange, man. But I'm fine with it.
Well, they acknowledge that Bride of Frankenstein happens. They just, it's just, it's so far. I mean, I think the reason why you're able to excuse it is that it's so far. It's now, been X
30
amount
years.
of years. You can sort of accept that the town looks a little different because, they've rebuilt and built over certain things, and it's
especially since I can think about the missing chapter that Drew, the what I'll call the Edwards chapter that that just explored everything that happened.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
back to how how they decided to bring it to this age, and did it pretty well. They decided, like, well, we had that, and now we have this, and this is how this works, and how we're able to modernize it and put these two together and everything like that. I think that's great.
So where does that get us? We finally get to the end where, in anger over the loss of Igor, the monster kidnaps.
Well, I mean, Igor has decided to go full blown.
Sure.
I can't trust Frankenstein. The inspector's gonna find us out.
The villagers are storming the
super
castle.
Villain, yeah.
Yeah.
It's straight up villainy. So he's gonna, which I mean, he starts out trying to kill Frankenstein by pushing a boulder on him.
Yes.
And doesn't succeed. God. But like he's decided, you know what? It's time to cut my losses, and I like using this monster to kill too much. So, and gets shot by Frankenstein. Luckily, Frankenstein's prepared.
Yeah.
Because Igor's straight up evil. So.
Yeah. But once the monster discovers Igor is dead, he immediately just goes kind of on a miniature rampage. He steals Peter, and very quickly we wrap up the movie because Wolf, in an effort to rescue Peter, two things happen. Wolf and Crow both attack the monster together. The monster rips off Crow's arm again, which
And
is
I love
brilliant.
that.
Yeah, it is brilliant.
Dramatic.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't rip off his flesh arm. He just rips off his.
No, I know,
but
but
it is
either
true.
way, man, like.
Yeah, it's
You don't
dramatic.
have
Yeah.
that happen twice. When do you like?
Oh, we didn't talk about
can
the
you
dart
imagine?
scene. The dart scene is hilarious.
Well, that
Well,
happens
we're there.
during the interrogation. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah,
Yeah,
but you're
Well,
right.
the fact is,
That
but just
cat and
the
mouse
playing
is
of the
amazing.
actual playing of the darts, because you have Basil Rathbone
Oh,
who
yeah.
just like doing this crazy, like just over the top performance where his facial expression, he's just really really stressed out by everything that's happening, but he's throwing darts, not even looking at the dartboard and getting into that whatever the inner circle is called. That's not the
Right.
the center, but
And
the
these
inner
are
circle.
not
He's
CGI
just hitting
darts.
it like just very, but his face, he looks like he's about to have a stroke or a heart attack or something because
Yeah.
he's just like throwing that conversation. But I was just thinking about that. With that
No, that's a
thing.
wonderful point. Yeah,
His
apparently
leer in
Basil
that
Rathbone-
is just amazing.
Yeah. By the way, if you like this guy, I've been listening to a lot of Basil Rathbone on because he played Sherlock Holmes, but he also played him on the radio. So you can listen to just hours and hours and hours and hours of Basil Rathbone playing Sherlock Holmes on the radio, which is, if you drive around, is kind of, if you're not listening to the Castle of Horror, which I recommend, you can listen to Basil Rathbone. But okay,
I'm listening to.
so here's the thing. Basil Rathbone does an Errol Flynn and swings down and kicks the monster into the luckily placed sulfur pit. So why doesn't that I
didn't realize that's where Terminator totally ripped that off.
Yeah, no kidding. That's true. Because it should completely destroy the monster because it's like 800 degrees, and yet to my knowledge, they're going to find this monster later. So, what great magic actually managed to save the monster? Drew,
Well,
do you know?
luckily, sulfur turns into carbonite, evidently.
Oh,
Yeah, he gets the Han Solo treatment.
yeah.
You know,
okay.
I can get behind, because of whatever thing keeps the monster immortal.
Oh yeah, well
I can kind of get behind it. He survives. What I want to know.
What is it? Gamma rays?
Yeah.
Cosmic rays? Whatever.
Cosmic rays. Yeah.
Cosmic rays, mysterious forces, whatever you want to call it.
You see how easy it is?
Whatever. I can get behind that. I want to know why his clothes don't get melted off.
Yeah.
That's the real
Also cosmic
question
ray.
for me.
Yeah.
although
cosmic
apparently
rays.
the sulfur.
Apparently, let's just comic book it. It's unstable molecules, okay?
Yes, indeed.
Just
I think the cosmic
when he
rays.
was that unstable molecules.
Although apparently the sulfur mutates him into looking like Lon Chaney Jr.
There you go. I mean, it does like 800 degrees.
Maybe it's not even the same. Maybe it's like my theory of. I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
No, but 800 degrees, that'll change you. It changes you like Lon Chaney Jr., but it does change you.
No,
but maybe it's just a new version, like a version 2.0. It's like my theory about James Bond is that this is not the same character. It's just that they recast, like they have a Bond, just like they have 007, and you can be anybody, be 007. He's also called James Bond. So Joe Smith shows up, and they're like, "Hey, you're James Bond now, and that's going to be your job," and that's his job. So I think it's the same is true here for Frankenstein's monster. It's like, oh, they just created another one, and he's just the new monster. We're just gonna.
We'll have to get around to doing Ghost of Frankenstein, and we'll at some point, and we'll see if your theory holds up to you. But
I agree.
You
what
asked
you're saying
when
is James Bond as Frankenstein. So can we get that? That's the other chapter.
Would explain a lot.
The
Yeah.
suave,
Well, Daniel Craig does have a very prominent brow. Now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Well, we just need some electrodes. Frankenstein,
So we should-
the gunman.
Well, you asked early on whether I feel like this is part of the first wave
And let this
or
go ahead and
the
be your
second one.
wrap up, Drew, because we should probably get wrapping up. So yeah,
Okay,
go ahead,
okay,
continue
gotcha.
with it. Yeah.
Well, no. I can use that for my wrap up. No worries.
Oh well, no, go ahead. We don't have to go in the same order. Please say what you're going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that this is the end of the A Universals because it's had a lot of money put into it, had a really great cast, it had lavish sets, very artfully thought out character arcs. I liked the monster movies that came out after this. The only one that I would say is probably on this level of production is the first Wolfman. The rest of them I would say are kind of lesser animals. This is a very well done movie.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that we got to talk about these. We finally got around to doing some Universal Frankensteins because we did Young Frankenstein, which of course lampoons all of these movies years ago, and now we're actually seeing the source material and how great they are. And it'll be interesting to talk about Hammer's Frankenstein movies, which are echoes of this yet very different.
Right.
But to me, these three movies, these are the best Frankenstein movies ever made. I love these movies. So I just thank you for indulging me.
Fantastic. Tony, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, beautiful, great cast, great performances. I do agree. I wish there was more monster, maybe more conflict. I mean, they were meant to be lean and mean movies. In fact, this one was longer than they wanted it to be. So maybe there's just not room for that. But I would have liked to have seen that. Yeah, I really, really dig it. I think there's just tons of great stuff, and what a good ending to this trilogy.
Yeah.
What a fantastic cast. Yeah, I regret that I haven't watched it more than I have. I don't even know why, now that I've seen it again after a while, many years. I watched them all when I was, working on a Universal Monsters game, Kid Monsters, but that was partly for the job and everything, and because I loved them. But it'd been a while, so the revisit was really, really cool. To really see Lugosi's performance again, so great. And again, having a surreal party experience where the host is that was just really, because it was just happenstance that your host is talking with the growl and everything, hanging out, talking to Igor at a party.
Yeah.
After watching and rewatching it to make notes today as well, it's just a really surreal experience. So the whole thing kind of worked out really well actually in this Halloween season.
Yeah, your timing was perfect.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
Julia, Son of Frankenstein, what are your final thoughts? And also, this kind of wraps up we've done the Karloff trilogy. We may well come around again, but what are your thoughts?
I'm really glad we did it. I mean, it really kind of felt like a hole. I mean, like we were missing this, and so I think I feel like we're kind of filling in the gaps slowly but surely as to covering all of the classic horror films that we should cover. And so I'm really glad that we did this particular retrospective, and I just really enjoyed that film. I like that they made it black and white. I like that that the cast is awesome and the sets are awesome, and it's not it's not super substantive, but it's definitely interesting and a lot of fun. So thanks for bringing it to us, Drew.
Yeah, no problem.
And I have nothing to add to that other than that you definitely should watch this, and I recommend actually watching all three of them to watch Karloff's creation. Just go through. You certainly won't. They're very short movies, so they make this is like a
watch
really
all
great...
of these in an afternoon.
Yeah, I recommend that. And I actually also think that the second cycle works together really well too, and by that I mean, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and Ghost and House, I think that four, they go together pretty well, although they are way, I mean no disrespect, but I remember them as being not nearly as sophisticated as these movies. But we'll see. We will see. Okay, let's come back around and do endorsements. I'm really curious what you guys have been watching or listening to that you would recommend. And then let's start. I'm sorry, Julia. We started with you, so let's go, Julia, Drew, Tony, and then I'll go. Julia, what's your endorsement this time around?
Well, gosh, I'm trying to think. I know I had something earlier in the week. I don't know if you remember what it was, but what I'm thinking right now popped into my head is actually not an endorsement because I haven't seen it yet, but it's something I'm excited about, which is Logan, the new movie that's coming out in a few months with
Hugh
Patrick.
Jackman?
Yeah.
What?
With huge Jackman.
Yes, with huge
Hugh
Jackman
and Patrick Stewart, who are my two favorite actors in the whole universe of Marvel, and so I'm really excited to see that film and see what it's going to do. It's really
We watched the
depressing
trailer.
with Johnny Cash music that just makes you want to cry. Music to kill yourself by, as somebody once called Tori Amos. I'm just really excited to see that film. But what is gosh, I'm trying to think. There was something I saw. I'll think of it hopefully, and if I do, then I'll come back.
I don't remember who I said next. So, Drew, do you have anything to endorse this time around?
As it happens, I was next, so it's okay.
Go, man! Excellent.
I am endorsing Black Magic. That's Magic with a K. From Image Comics.
Oh, I know what it was. Okay, I think.
No. You go first.
No. Vote. That's all. Vote. Just vote and vote.
Vote.
Just vote. That's what I was going to endorse. Is voting. Go ahead.
All right. Well, as I was saying, I am endorsing Black Magic. That's Magic with a K. From Image Comics. It is the creator-owned book from Greg Rucka and my old Halloween Man co-creator, Nicola Scott, who has gone on to have a really, really, she left the farm leagues of Halloween Man and went up into the majors. And she said it's been really a pleasure watching her, take over DC Comics and now go back to doing, not an indie book, but a creator-owned book. And the thrust of this series, it is about a police officer who is also in secret a witch, and it starts out very dramatically with her going to negotiate for some hostages with a guy who is possessed, and the book goes on to have a lot of creepiness. And I've known Nicola for years, so I've seen her artwork really grow and change. This is some of the most beautiful artwork you're going to see in a mainstream comic book in a long time. It's gorgeous. It's got very sparse use of color. It's mostly a black and white book, but when they use color, it's used very differently and very dramatically. And I'm almost recommending this book on the strength of the art alone. I mean, it's just gorgeous to look at. And if you're looking for something that is, supernatural related, which is horror related, but something that's a little different, I think this would fit the bill for a lot of people. However, this is not, I repeat, not for younger listeners. This is a book with a lot of nudity and violence in it. So, if this was a film, this would be a hard R-rated film. So, definitely don't buy it for your 12-year-old. But if you're a grown-up that likes comics, like a lot of people that listen to our podcast, I think that you would find a lot to enjoy. So go check out Black Magic from Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott, and it's published by Image Comics.
Outstanding. Tony, what do you got for us?
I'm going to have people check out Earp, and I need to get a friend of mine is in it. It sounds really cool. It's an episodic Western. Um,
ERP? Like
and Earp,
EARP,
like
like Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Also, I haven't seen it, but I've heard enough good things, and I hope to promote it because it sounds really cool. There's a band, having been in a band that did Japanese rock covers, there's a documentary called X, We Are X, and it's about X Japan, who was really, really cool band, primarily in the 80s, but of course, I've gone long past that. And I've heard nothing but good things. It had a limited theatrical run. I'm endorsing it, maybe even self-servingly, because I hope it gets a longer run and or makes it, to video on demand really quickly. I can also tell you, and legally, I will add this disclaimer: this is not an official, in any stretch other than I work at Rooster Teeth, official thing. But if you do have interest in what else I do, for my, I wouldn't say 9 to 5, but it goes much, much longer than that, job, Ruby Season 4, and that's RWBY, is out on YouTube now. It's like a week delayed, so first episode's on YouTube. Season 4 looks, last year it looked good. This year, holy cow, the whole team is just killing themselves to make this really, really cool series. And I endorse it, like I say, very, very unofficially, since, a big part of Rooster Teeth is doing podcasts and stuff like this is totally separate. But if you do want to see what else I work on, there you go. I have a hand in basically keeping the engine running on that show. So.
Excellent. So that's Ruby, written RWBY for Rooster
Yeah, like
Teeth.
red, white, blue, black, yellow,
Right. Okay, my endorsement...
Season 4 in particular.
I'm sorry?
Season 4 in particular.
Right. Excellent. All right. What I'll endorse is actually definitely vote. And like I said earlier, a couple things to listen to. I mentioned if you like Basil Rathbone, you can listen to his radio Sherlock Holmes, hours and hours of it, and they're a blast. But just this weekend, we were carving pumpkins, and on Spotify, we were listening to the Twilight Zone radio show, which are recent. They were in like 2013 or something like that. So doing the Rod Serling's have been replaced, obviously, with Stacy Keach, and they have lots of modern recognizable actors, and they're just adaptations of well-known Twilight Zone episodes. We listened to The Passage on the Lady Anne and Time Enough at Last. And it was so great. And Time Enough at Last, the Burgess Meredith character was played by Tim Kazurinsky, who used to be on SNL. So really cool stuff. And so that was my recommendation is Twilight Zone, the radio series, which you can find, at least you can find them on Spotify and probably other places as well. All right. This has been so much fun to discuss. Tony, I know we've kept you a really long time in your undisclosed location, and I apologize. This has been great. I cannot wait for us to be back with the next episode to talk about the Hammer Frankenstein. We'll be doing a lot of compare and contrast. In the meantime, if you like this, grab your friends, tie them up, threaten to throw them into a boiling pit of sulfur unless they listen
Once again,
to the show.
I must advocate that you not be violent in any way or
leave comments, engage with
For
us
legal
on the
purposes,
Facebook page.
especially.
The things Jason says do not reflect the the beliefs and policies of
We would rather you
war.
just enjoy it. We'd rather you just show this to them and have them enjoy it with a lot less threatening of sulfur pits.
Exactly.
I suppose if that's how you have to, I still can't endorse that, but we would prefer organically liking the show and really truly enjoying it. And not,
you guys.
That's the show. I like the idea, though, that the show could turn into, like, yeah, that was really traumatic. I can't listen to any of their voices because I was threatened with being thrown into a sulfur pit, and it really is a big part of my PTSD. Was
Yep.
I was tied to a chair and forced to listen to Castle of Horror because the host is a maniac, basically.
Right, and now
And
we're going to be
advocated
like,
this.
Jason gets to be an
don't lie,
accomplice to this
Jason.
horrible crime.
Yeah.
All right.
Jason, are you secretly behind the legions of evil clowns? Do you have this sinister persona that leaks out at the end of each episode?
I'm just saying that y'all don't understand marketing.
Especially when that marketing is.
I understand lawsuits.
Yeah.
without
I understand criminal investigations.
All right. The other thing I gotta
want
talk
to be an accessory.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Accessory and accomplice. We know those words, and I prefer to be neither.
I gotta tell people this though. Leave reviews
I mean,
on
I know you like the Abominable Dr. Fives, but you don't need to live it out.
Right. Next week, you guys can find out if any of those things came to pass. Do leave reviews on iTunes. It really matters, and we love to read those things, and we can't wait to be back. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic week, and if you're listening to this when we're recording it, have a fantastic election day. We'll talk to you soon. Good night.
Bye.
Later.
Right.